In Mali, government forces have launched a counter-offensive against al-Qaeda-linked rebels in the north of the country. The Malian government says it's battling rebel fighters in the town of Kona, 600 kilometers east of the capital. The rebels had earlier pushed the army from the town. Well, earlier, French President François Hollande had vowed to stop the rebels' advance, acting within a mandate from the United Nations. The UN earlier condemned the rebel attack on Kona, calling on all member states to help bring an end to the crisis in Mali. Well, we've got correspondents standing by in both Paris and the United Nations. But first, let's hear what François Hollande had to say.
Les terroristes se sont regroupés ces derniers jours.
The terrorists have recently regrouped on the line that artificially separates North and South Mali. They've even advanced, and they seek to strike a fatal blow to the very existence of Mali. France, like its African partners and the international community, cannot accept this. We're facing an aggression, so I've decided that France is ready to respond on the side of our African partner on the request of the Malian authorities. France will do this strictly within the framework of the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council. We will be ready to stop the terrorist offensive because this is the requirement of solidarity and responsibility.
Well, Rory Challands joins us live now from the French capital. Rory, it seems like a change of tone over Mali for François Hollande. What more has he been saying?
Well, that's exactly right, Darren. We have had what is a detectable change of tone from François Hollande. More really than a change of substance. I mean, we have been hearing for some time, back from October and November, that François Hollande was prepared to send France's military to Mali. But when we were hearing that in October and November, he was saying that this would be not any kind of combat troop deployment. It would be something that was purely for training purposes and assistance purposes for the Malian government and the Malian army. Now, he didn't say this time, although he did confirm that troops would be going to Mali, he didn't say that those would be combat troops. What he did say, though, that was hinting along those lines was that last bit of the clip that you played there from François Hollande, which was essentially, we will be ready to stop the terrorist offensive if it continues. Now, that is a much stronger tone than we've heard from François Hollande so far.
All right, Rory, thank you for that. Let's get to the view now from the United Nations and talk to James Bays. James, the French president has said he will only send troops under UN authorization. So what exactly is the UN mandate for Mali, James?
Well, there has already been a UN resolution on the 20th of December. This is the resolution. Let me just read you the key part of this, Darren. The UN Security Council decided to authorise the deployment of an African-led international support mission in Mali for an initial period of 1 year, which will take all necessary measures. Now, I think that this resolution, the blanket of this resolution, can still be used by any troops on the ground right now because of the statements we've had in the last few hours from the Security Council. They've described what's happened in the last day or so as a direct threat to international peace and security. Those are diplomatic buzzwords, meaning this is very serious and we need to take action on this immediately. I think the UN is very rattled by what has happened on the ground in Mali. They had been treating this as a crisis that could wait. They were putting together a political mission. They were putting together a military force. They were putting together European nations to come as a training force for the government troops there in Mali. And they were hoping to have the military force in place when the heat of the summer had died down by about September. It is now no longer a crisis that can wait. Those rebel forces are moving forward from the north of Mali towards the centre.
Yeah, James, it's an important point you make. Events on the ground in Mali are moving very quickly. Clearly, perhaps this is forcing the UN to speed up deployment of that Africa force under ECOWAS.
Well, it may force them to, but they certainly are nowhere near having that force. As you say, ECOWAS is the regional grouping of countries in West Africa. They're not in place, that force. In fact, the initial UN planners for that force and also for the political mission aren't due to arrive in Mali for over a week now. They're not there yet. Even the initial planning team will be there in the next couple of weeks. I don't think they're anywhere near having that full force of 3,000 African soldiers on the ground. That's why I think you're hearing these reports. We have to confirm them, that there are already French troops on the ground in Mali, possibly helping out as a stopgap measure, helping the government forces there. And I don't see any objection from the Security Council. I think many people will say, and it will be debated, that French help can be covered by the existing resolution.
All right, James Bays there at the United Nations in New York and Rory Challands in Paris. Thank you both.